People don't need introductions in the video. So, hello, I'm Andy. I'm going to be your trainer for today, and I'm your interim. I'm the chair of the IAC committee, the Interim Assistance Committee. So, if any of you interim managers ever have a problem, you can email our committee, and it's our job to figure out what you need to do in the case. So, basic explanation. Assume that you didn't know anything. What is interim? Interim is the period between winter and spring, and the period between summer and fall. It's the in-between period, so technically no one has contracts between interim. So we need to prep our houses for the next contract period. Just because there's no contracts doesn't mean we don't have people living there. We do have various rules in the standing rules about how you can stay over during interim. So what is an interim manager? I'm assuming that if you're here and you're not a member of IAC, you have elected to be an interim manager. So basically an interim manager is the house officer who it's their job to essentially do every house officer role during the interim period. Now that doesn't mean that you have to do every role. As we'll explain a little bit later, you can appoint someone to be like your work manager, you can appoint someone to be your food steward to buy food. But we've basically tasked you with being the person in charge of everything, and it's your job to delegate to people as you see fit. So, excellent. So, we're going to talk about cleaning first, because cleaning is always a big problem during interim. We always have trouble when people are moving out of houses, and people are moving into houses, and things get left in rooms. The common areas just essentially become one big guff pile, and it's very bad for us when it comes to people moving in and seeing huge piles of trash everywhere, especially with their parents. So we're going to focus on 3 areas here and common spaces that tend to get the most amount of clutter. So kitchens, bathrooms, and laundry rooms often need a lot of love during interim. So next slide. So starting with kitchens, important. Dishes, just because it's interim doesn't mean that we stop doing dishes. So things like that, make sure the floors are clean, make sure that food is put away and not just lying around. Take the trash out occasionally, very important when the trash tends to pile up during interim and people might not take it out for a couple days, it smells bad. And as I said, pretend that your parents are visiting. So like pretend that mom and dad are coming over for a visit, and how you tend to pick your room up just a little bit nicer for them, maybe, maybe not. But yeah, pretend that you try to tidy up just a little bit, that you're having a special guest, come over, because you're having a new housemate move in, and you don't want the first thing for them to see is piles upon piles of messes. Next slide. So bathrooms are another place that get neglected, they don't get cleaned. Again, guff clothes tend to pile up here. People's, personal hygiene products tend to pile up. You get deodorants and soaps and all sorts of other things that people might leave during this time, and no one knows whose they are, and you don't really use those things, so they just kind of get stuck there. And as I said, tidy up. Important to take the trash out in your garden, or take the trash out occasionally. So next slide. Again, laundry rooms. Laundry rooms are another place where things tend to pile up. Clothes, I'm sure you have a big pile of clothes that are unclaimed by anyone in your laundry rooms by now, if you haven't done a wolf holiday and clean those things up. So again, empty the trash out, remove all of those clothing, come up with a system that people can claim the things that they might have left in your house, tidy up. Next slide. So here's our clutter control policy. I know it's a little small, I'll send you the slide. It's chapter 15 of the standing rules, part 13. And we basically came up with the clutter control policy a few years ago because we'd have years upon years upon years of stuff in houses that no one would ever deguff and donate to the thrift stores just because people were unafraid to touch it. And it might be someone. So the 2 important times for clutter control are your work holiday, where you're supposed to go through your house and deguff everything, take it somewhere and donate it. But the other time is interim, and you're supposed to do the same thing, gather up all the things that people have just kind of abandoned and left in common areas. Give them a chance to clean it and then donate it somewhere. Next slide. So again, during interim, all unclaimed clothing and personal items must be removed from common areas. As we on that side. And you have the right to remove the stuff. We've designated this as the period of time to remove this. Also, when it comes to rooms, you're probably gonna have to clean out 1 or 2 rooms of people who don't clean their own stuff up. Once people don't have a contract and they move out, all that stuff is considered abandoned. It can go in the trash, it can be donated, but it is no longer theirs if they don't have a contract. So set a date and a space for all of the stuff that you're probably going to gather up. Preferably do this before the start of interim, maybe like the week before. Say this is the guff pile, people, look through your stuff, it's gonna go away in a week. And as I said, donate to the Salvation Army, or if you're not cool with the Salvation Army, there's 20 other thrift stores in the town, so you might want to get stuff too. Next slide. Cleaning schedules. So, as I said, as an interim manager, one of your jobs is to do work manager duties, unless you delegate this. Just because it's interim does not mean that work activities stop. This is often a problem in houses in that things will just not get done because no one is assigned the task. So, make sure that everyone who lives in the house is doing work and is assigned some sort of task. And we want to make sure that kitchens, bathrooms, laundries are clean. So emphasize those jobs first, make sure that they're done before some of the other less important jobs, shall we say. Action items. All right, so as interim manager, one of your jobs is to make sure that rooms are in presentable condition when people move out. So you're going to do inspections of all the rooms when people move out, and you want to make sure that the rooms are good for someone new to move into those rooms once the old member is moved out. So make sure that the rooms are clean. Also very important, make sure that people know that if they do not have a contract, they need to be moved out of the room by May 4th. There will be fines if you try to hold over in a room and you don't have a contract. And as interim manager, you can be the one to issue those fines. So, according to the standing rules, it's $100, and you get charged the double rate that we have for charges per day. It's like prorated, you don't get charged the whole like $400 and some that are ICC charges every day. Very important, as I said, you're going to be issuing the fines. These fines go into your amenities fund, so if people don't move out, you might have a sweet amenities fund. So keys. Make sure that when people move out, they give you their key back. So easy way to do this is to get with your house president, go over what keys they have, make a spreadsheet. As people move out, add in that they gave you the key back, because everyone should have a key for their room. And if people don't give you a key back, which rooms don't have keys, you can go down to the ICC office then, or if you live in Escher, they have their own key machine and they have their own key policy with key holders and stuff. The IAC members for Escher can help you out with that. As I said, make a spreadsheet. Once you know what keys you need, you can head down to the ICC office and make keys once for your house instead of having to go every time someone moves out. And keys can be billed back to the member who does not return the key. So if you don't do this, they'll end up billed back to your house. Next slide.
I was just going to say, it sort of is related to keys, but door code, so the door code should be changed probably sometime very late in the day on May 4th.
Ideally, you should probably change your door code at the end of every term. Some houses do this more than others. Okay, communication. So you want to make sure that members know what is going on. You need to make sure that they know when their move-out date is, so like when their contract's ending, whether or not they have a spring-summer contract. So best advice to you is, again, make a spreadsheet of all your house members and when they're going to move out. As I said, make a spreadsheet, put the dates in there, whether or not they have like a spring contract or not, or staying over. Also, we're going to give you access to Sticker Book, so you can look on Sticker Book and find out when new people are coming in. Sticker Book is our online program that manages it manages all the members in the ICC and what house they're contracted to, so it gives you an easy guide to browse. Importance, do an inspection when people move out, ideally when they're moving out, so you can be like, hey, we need to pick that stuff up, hey, you need to vacuum in here. I know this isn't possible for everyone, so if you can't do it as soon as possible after they move out. Worst case, you're gonna have a new member moving into a filthy room and you'll have to like clean it really quickly, and that's not fun. So you don't have to do inspections if you have a member who has a contract for spring, summer, from winter, and they're staying in the same room, so you don't have to worry about that. Also contact new move-ins with the information in the sticker book, just because they're slated, just because their contract starts on May 5th, maybe they're not moving in on May 5th. As I said, contact your current members, find out the date they plan on moving out. You know, some people are going to leave earlier than May 4th. Any other thing you'd like to add, Ron?
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I'm just gonna come up. Okay. How many people here have been interim managers before? Two, or three, yeah. How many people first moved into the ICC in the spring term? And what was the condition of the house in your room? Was it a little bit less than what you were expecting? I see a smile, so that's a no comment, so that's a yes. This year, what we're really emphasizing, and Ian Cross at Osterwald made this point, was that we make a big effort for everybody for fall, winter, to get the house clean, to get the rooms clean. But spring, summer, we're so-so. So this year, we're really emphasizing making sure that the house is clean and making sure the rooms are clean for the members coming in. We got an email last year from two members who moved into a house, and they were saying how they were terribly disappointed at the condition of the house. They made a big effort to clean it. At that time, they said that if they were asked to recommend the co-ops that they couldn't in good faith. That's what we want to work against. Nothing's going to be perfect, we understand that, but we really want to make an effort. And again, I know some members who are exiting will say, well, the room wasn't exactly in the best state when I came in, so why am I being, kind of pushed to leave it in a better state? Well, one, that's what co-ops are about. We always want to leave things better when we leave. And two, I understand it's not fair, but we're trying to improve it, so we're just asking for everybody's cooperation to improve it. So the communication, we will, after we go through the slides, I'll come back up and we'll choose a house, and I'll show you how you can make the spreadsheets real easy. Start communicating with your incoming and exiting members now. There are going to be some flyers that will be handed out, we'll distribute them to you, about posting the squatters beware, and you can't hang over, and I'll address that in a second. Start communicating when people are leaving, because not everybody's going to be leaving at the same time. This is one of the things that makes this interim a little bit challenging. Everybody has a different exam schedule. Some people are graduating, so it's going to be staggered. Plus, with this interim, there isn't a gap between the start, or the end and the start. Contract ends May 4th, spring contract starts May 5th. So it is very likely that you will have some people coming in who need to move in before. And you're going to have to do some juggling. How many houses here have at least scheduled room picks for spring? Okay. You definitely want to, when that happens, you definitely want to start lining up when you do your Excel sheet, exiting rooms, or a list of all the rooms, who's exiting, who's entering. Is there going to be overlap? If so, which rooms you might be able to temporarily move somebody into? Last thing, non-standard contracts. But before I go into that, because this is a little bit complicated, everybody just stand up, like 30 seconds, stand up and shake out. I know, we're trying to, I apologize for no munchies. This is, I've done a lot of interims, but this is my first time running, so it didn't occur to me until this morning at 2 a.m. It's like, I did not order food. I know there's barbecue later,
Yeah, there is.
and there's probably already had breakfast, but there's no. Okay, and this one is on the website. There's one section that needs to be updated, but just really brief. So, as we've already mentioned, holding over past the end of the contract is not, for this term, is not permitted without a contract. You can't stay as somebody's guest. You have to have a contract. Now, are we gonna be, I'll be honest, are we gonna be super microscope, going in all the rooms, like, do you have a contract? I mean, we'll be doing that, but it's like, seriously looking at each person, like, do you have a contract, do you have a contract? No. But when we come do inspections, and somebody, if we do happen to come across somebody, then yes, that fine policy is gonna kick in. You have two options. If you need to stay over, we adapted a new policy. Non-standard contracts. If you need to stay for a month or less, or at least a month, minimum, has to be for a minimum of 30 days, and you have to pay for it at time of signing. And also, we adapted what we call STECs, to short-term extension contracts. This is if you just need to stay for up to 14 days. Also has to be paid for at time of signing. That second one, the STECs, you can start signing those April 15th. We've been emailing everybody, and I think we're up to, we'll be getting Luther. Everybody who has not signed the spring term contract will be getting an email with all these options so that they can reference it. It'll be on the website. We need to update the language on the STECs. I'll be working with Muhammad. Direct them to the website. It's updated now so that it's actually something you can look up. Preferably come to the office. I understand we're getting to exams. If you want a contract emailed to you, it might be a little bit delayed, but we will get it to you, and at least we'll indicate on the sticker book that somebody needs a contract requested. So how you factor that into your room pick meetings for spring, summer, that leads to individual houses. Does anybody have any questions on the two short-term contracts? Yes?
So minimum of 30 days and minimum of 14 days, or maximum?
Okay, sorry. So it's up to the STECs, the short-term extensions are a maximum or a range of 1 to 14 days. The maximum for a short-term extension is 14 days. If you get to, and we had to have a cutoff somewhere, if you get to like the 15 to 20 range, then it will be, you would need to sign a 30-day contract. Now, the non-standard contract, the minimum is 30 days. So you can do 31, 32, 33, anything up, but it has to be for a minimum of 30 days. Any other questions on this? And again, we'll show you how to generate a real quick Excel sheet. Okay.
And either you or members can always contact Ron or me and be like, hey, I need to stay until this date. What works for me, and we can, help you figure out. So don't feel that you have to know everything.
I kind of have a question. Okay, so say someone fills out a STEC to stay, but someone has signed for their room for all of spring, summer.
Is someone so?
Just if that were to happen. So they couldn't fill out a STEC there?
Yes, it could happen for North Campus because you signed for it by room. In that case, what you need to do is the key holders, in this case, go to your key holder. Have them talk to the incoming person.
Okay.
I need to stay, somebody signed for a room, can you contact them and ask them if it's okay if they switch rooms? This will require some Tetris,
Okay.
but we can, as long as everybody is agreeable and cooperative, we can work it out.
Okay.
However, one thing to understand is that they legally do have the rights to the room.
The person in the room?
The person who has signed the contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
Incoming
The
person.
income person has
Incoming
the
person
right.
has signed a contract,
Okay.
right. And just real quick on the specs, the reason the specs were so late in signing is because it can be I understand people's plans, don't finalize for spring, summer until the very end, but we have to have some order that we can keep the files tracking, because this is for anybody here, is anybody here a board member? Okay, well, for everybody else, Yumna came in and did a presentation on some of the problems we have with charges getting started, and this is a huge one, because everybody's coming in at the last minute. For April time, we're tracking 170, literally up to 150 to 170 signed contracts, and that sort of bumps up against getting charges ready for May and spring, summer.
Would that then prorate the room? So like, say you were supposed to move it on the 5th, but you work it out so that you move it on the 10th and the other person stays till the 10th, would the incoming person have their charges prorated for those days they weren't there then?
Well, hopefully the incoming person is in the house. So I think that's what Rob's saying, is that maybe they would have another room, or there would be some room.
Yes, there should be rooms for them to move into.
For them
It may
to
not
move.
be their actual room, or
Okay,
hopefully
I
they can
see what
just,
you're saying.
if they're dead set on that room, then hopefully they're agreeable to just stay in a different room for a
Okay.
couple days, but they're still gonna be charged.
Okay,
As long as they're there, they are going to be charged.
okay.
And there's no standing rule about this, but I would just say in terms of what we see, people being discontent moving in the room or whatever, it would be a good idea to, if someone has signed a contract for a room and really wants to move in a room, you try to accommodate them, and the person who just decided the last minute to stay, maybe they can move to another room. And obviously this is like a very interpersonal thing, and each case is different, but I would just say that, yeah, the role of the room manager is so incredibly important because of member satisfaction and because the implications that can have for the organization. Because we get CRC cases, contract release committee gets cases that are like, people, members, like Ron said, that email was sent last year. It's like, well, we had these expectations for the cleanliness of our room and they weren't met, and so now we want to move out. And so that's obviously worst case scenario, but just have to have that trajectory in mind, because I know it's easy to get caught up in what's going on in the house.
All right, shall we get back to next slide?
Important dates.
So important dates, everything here, of course, winter contract ends on the 4th, spring contract begins on the 5th, it's right on top of each other. So important thing, as interim manager, you're going to be planning your first house meeting. So this is where you're going to go over, all the new stuff that went over when you were a new member. And according to our state rules, you need to do that within a week of the contract period beginning. So that date will be May 12th. We do not have dates for new officer and president training yet. We're going to be sending those out to you once we have dates. So important, when you do your first house meeting, make sure you have an agenda to go over. We can come up with a sample agenda if you really need one, but I know a lot of you have seen.
Yes, actually, Andy didn't know this, in your packets, one of the things I ran off for you were standing rules, to do with interim and room conditions, and actually, there is a standing rule for your first meeting. It's 8.16.1, so read at your own leisure, but it has a list of items that you need to cover at your first house meeting. And you can write this down, at least for the house presidents. The training will be Monday, May 12th. Education committee did confirm that date. Other house officers, we are still working on it.
All right.
May 12th, Monday, May 12th.
What was the training?
House president, in-house president's training, or house president's training.
Okay, so as I said, ideally, this first meeting too, you're gonna also want to elect your summer officers. So I know that you're probably not gonna be the only person staying over in your house. You have other members that you know and trust that are going to be staying over. So you might want to start getting with them now, asking them if they'd like to, step up and run for an officer position. Maybe even people that are in officer positions would be interested in carrying over their officer position that they already have now. Next slide. So, I was going to talk a little bit about scholarships. So go over, who won our scholarships, who's eligible, and most importantly, I want a scholarship. How do I get a scholarship?
Yeah, so last interim, this is the 1 year anniversary of the interim manager scholarship. So it has a lot to do with the reason that we created this scholarship has a lot to do with why.
Actually, so you can be on the video.
Pardon?
Go
Oh,
ahead,
no, it's
show the
okay.
video.
I need to come up with it's fine. I don't want to be taped. Sorry. So the reason that we scholarship interim managers has a lot to do with why you pay somebody in any role. We want to incentivize the position of interim manager. We want to encourage people to run, and we want to make sure that people do a good job. And so I'm sure you've read with some of the caveats having to do with the interim manager scholarships. Like you're not guaranteed all of the scholarship. You have to fulfill your duties. You have to do your job, and so that's pretty standard. Like doing a job requires certain effort, and if you put in that effort, you're paid. So the reason that I unplugged this is because we've got the amounts are different for each house. So when MEMCOM decided this last year, the reason that the amounts are different for each house, although we know that you all work very hard, is that people are coming in at different frequencies and different rates. So a small house like Ruth's is not going to have the same amount of activity and things to deal with as a place like Luther. And actually in the case of Luther, they've divided the work between two people, which makes a lot of sense. And